Justice Beat is dedicated to the 1 in 3 Americans touched by incarceration. Justice Beat is where we discuss all things justice.
Good morning and welcome to the Justice Beat radio show. We are excited to have you to join us for our edition of the Justice Beat, and we welcome our internet radio listening audience. We are pleased to have with us today Ms. Laura Toledo, Executive Director of the Center for Women in Transition, located in St. Louis, Missouri. Good morning, Ms. Toledo.
Good morning.
Today's show, we will discuss the continuum of care needs for formerly incarcerated women. Ms. Toledo has a wealth of knowledge and experience in this area, and we will talk about some of the various programs and services and activities provided by the Center for Women in Transition. Ms. Toledo, before we get started with the various segments, I'd like to take some time to have you share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and your background.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me today. I'm a lawyer by background, and I shifted to this position about 4 years ago. When I was in law school, I took a couple of courses on criminal justice and was interested in it, but really ended up doing corporate bankruptcy law as my primary focus area for about 7 years. And when I started in private practice, I joined the board of Center for Women in Transition, primarily for, professional development reasons. And when I joined the board, I also became a mentor just because I felt it was important to understand the programs of an agency, as I joined the board. So that's how I got introduced to Center for Women in Transition. And over the years, I became a leader of the board and, became much more involved with the agency and saw it grow, saw it go through, challenges, mostly financial challenges. And I always felt that the programming was very strong and really, really important. So as I was trying to decide where I wanted to go with my career, I decided to apply for the executive director position when it became available about 4 years ago. So that's how I kind of made the transition.
Okay. And how has that transition worked for you in terms of moving from a volunteer status to actually taking on the role of the executive director?
Well, It's been wonderful. It was everything I sort of expected it would be. I think having been on the board and really knowing the staff and knowing the program, it was very easy for me to see myself in that role. And so, I knew that this was a place I was going to enjoy working. While corporate bankruptcy wasn't really my passion in life, it was amazing training for coming in and sort of being the business leader of an organization. I had a lot of experience with consulting with businesses of many different kinds and helping them through different challenges. So, that background made the transition much easier than knowing the mission of the agency, as well as I did also made the transition pretty smooth. It was, quite a change going from a corporate culture, being in a big office building with a lot of, services and support systems and an IT department.
Exactly.
And, facilities that always worked and, that kind of thing that was the most, I think, shocking change to me was, my first day of work, the air conditioner stopped working and the computers went down, and that was my job to figure out how to fix it.
Oh, wow.
So that was, I think, the biggest shock to me was just, I don't have an IT person I can, call his extension and say, can you figure out why these computers are down?
Exactly. Welcome to the nonprofit world.
I've got used to it, and we now have good IT support services. They're outsourced, but
right.
You figure it out as you go.
Right. Now, you mentioned, Ms. Toledo, your passion. So corporate world was not your passion. What is your passion? Let's talk about that and how you are utilizing your gifts and talents at the Center for Women in Transition and how that is addressing your need for that passionate connection.
I have a lot of passions, but the Center for Women in Transition appeals to me Number one, because it's focused on the criminal justice system, which, when you incarcerate somebody, you're taking away their freedom, and that's a big deal. And I think that this country incarcerates a lot of people, and there hasn't been a whole lot of thought behind that. And as everybody knows, we incarcerate more people in this country than anywhere else in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's become the way that we as a country address substance abuse and mental illness, essentially poverty at some level. So it's just a ripe area for reform. And so, there's that component. I've always been interested in that. Even, like I said, in law school, I really enjoyed those classes, even though that's not where I took my career initially. And also, I just love working with women and seeing them gain self-confidence, self-esteem, make change in their lives, overcome addiction. That's just a really exciting thing for me to do as well. So I sort of have a passion for empowering women and also for reforming the criminal justice system and working within that system to try to make it better for the people who are, caught up in it.
Right. And, I'm so glad that you mentioned the fact that the United States incarcerates more people in this country than anywhere else in the world. And we do have to find ways, alternatives to incarceration that are more impactful and effective to transforming lives, as well as still being on the ground to implement things that will reform the system's response to things that need to be addressed in society. So I'm glad that we are doing this show, one, because also women are the population of women in this country have the highest increase in incarceration. And I'm not sure that a lot of people realize that. They are also the most complex population on the reentry side, because they come with a host or a myriad of needs, especially because most of these women have children. Yeah,
and in Missouri, I think 2016 was the year that we essentially became 10% of, women became 10% of the state's prison population. So it's gone from, 8 to 10% over the course of a decade or so. So yes, it's going the wrong way for women.
Exactly. So Ms. Toledo, let's talk a little bit about what is your experience on any given day. How much of your work is, or you don't have to really quantify it. What percentage of your time is spent having an opportunity to engage the ladies? How much is spent on administrative tasks, programmatic tasks? What is a typical day like for you?
I don't provide case management myself, so
right.
I am basically the executive director, administrative leader of the agency.
Mm-hmm.
However, the women are in and out every day, and I get to know a lot of them, but it's not a large portion of my day on any given day. And every day is different. That's one thing I love about being in nonprofit management.
Exactly.
It's very dynamic, very fast-paced. I spend a lot of my day working very closely with the development director. Right now we're getting ready for our gala next week.
Okay.
So that is, taking up probably 30% of my day, I would say, just on logistics and planning and following up on sponsorships and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
We also, are continuously grant writing and meeting with donors and people in the community. I also spend quite a bit of time working with collaborations, which is another really exciting thing about my job. We're involved in collaborations in the city and the county on different programs designed to better serve. Right now, the jail population is a specific target of 2 different collaborations.
And tell us a little bit about those collaborations.
One of them in the county is funded through the MacArthur Foundation, their Safety and Justice Challenge. And St. Louis County was one of 11 sites around the country that was given a fairly significant 2-year grant to come up with innovative ways to reduce over-reliance on jails and serve disparate impacts on communities of color. And we are in our first year of implementing that grant, and I think it's a really great model in that we have a team comprised of jail staff, probation and parole staff, and many community providers who come together to essentially address people who would be eligible for release if they had adequate supports in the community. And we work as a team, working through each person individually and getting a plan for them and getting them released from jail and in the community and, receiving services. And it's been fairly successful so far. There's a lot of people that have been released that otherwise would not have been released.
Okay.
And the collaboration has been very powerful. And every time I go to a meeting, somebody says, I just love the teamwork that's going on here. And so I'm really excited to see kind of the results at the end of 1 year. We just sort of started implementing in August, really getting people released and with community partners. So that's the one collaboration that we're involved with. And in that collaboration, we provide, housing for women and supportive services, case management, life skills, and employment assistance to women in that program. And then in the city, there's a federally funded collaboration. A lot of the same kind of partners. Oh, there's academic partners in both of these as well. UMSL, University of Missouri, St. Louis, in the county, and Washington University in the city. And that one it's called Relink.
Okay.
And it's a collaboration essentially with the goal of connecting people who are in the St. Louis city jails to providers to ensure a continuum of care for their health care needs. Mm-hmm. But of course that encompasses everything along with it.
Right.
Everything is interconnected. So there's housing involved with that, substance abuse involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
That is in its planning year essentially right now. But there are people who have been released and receiving services through that collaboration as well.
That's awesome. And see, that is part of the critical piece around the reintegration or even alternatives to incarceration, or when someone is in a short stay facility like a jail, to make sure that what they're going to need is in place, all of the supportive services. That is going to make the difference. And collaborations also allow for you to expand your capacity to deliver services and also to develop your resources so that one agency is not solely responsible for the delivery of all of these myriad of services, but everyone can share resources and build that capacity and as well as outreach. And so that's a great method and model that I've always been a great fan of. All right, we've come up on the end of our segment 1 with Ms. Toledo, the Executive Director of the Center for Women in Transition in St. Louis, Missouri. We're going to take a short break and we will be back momentarily. You are listening to the Justice Beat radio show.
Do you know of ground-level community or faith-based organizations who are providing outstanding direct services to formerly incarcerated individuals? Well, if you do, the Justice Beat team would like to recognize their commitment and dedication. Please visit the Justice Beat radio show website at www.justicebeat.webs.com and submit your recommendation. Don't forget to provide the name of the organization, the contact person, phone number, and email address. You are listening to the Justice Beat radio show. See you in 60 seconds.
Welcome back to the Justice Beat radio show, where we are talking with Ms. Toledo, the Executive Director of the Center for Women in Transition, St. Louis, Missouri. Ms. Toledo, we're going to now proceed to segment 2 of our show, in which we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about the programming that is provided at the Center for Women in Transition. Ms. Toledo, I'd like to share with our listening audience the structure and the dynamics of the services provided at the center. And one of the things I want to talk about with you is your transition homes, because I believe you have at least 2 or 3 transition homes in St. Louis?
Yes, we have 2 transitional homes.
Okay. And if you can tell us a little bit about the operations of those homes, where they're located.
So both of our homes are located in South St. Louis. Everything is walking distance from everything else, our office and our 2 homes. And the first home that we opened is called the Barbara Baker House. It was donated to us by one of our founders, the Sisters of Mercy. And it's an apartment building that has 8 apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. And when we opened that house, we opened it as an apartment-style transitional living facility. So everybody has their own fully furnished bedroom and apartment. So we don't have any sort of bunk beds. You know, you have your own queen-size bed with a dresser, nightstand, closet, you know, and then if you're in a 2-bedroom apartment, you will share the bathroom and kitchen and living room. And then as you progress through the program, which is you can stay in that housing for a year, over the period of time, you will end up probably in a 1-bedroom apartment of your own. And we have in the building, you know, laundry services in the basement that are free for use, and we also have an office in the building where their house managers are in the evenings to ensure that everybody's kind of in by curfew, to kind of do, you know, basic monitoring of house rules and that sort of thing. We have some overnight staffing, and then during the day we have a case manager and a employment and life skills person office there. So that's kind of the first housing facility that we opened.
Okay.
And then that was in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, we were awarded a contract with Missouri Department of Corrections to open essentially a halfway house for women. But our facility is really based on the original model. So that house is also apartments. It's 2-bedroom apartments, all of them. So when the women come to us there, they will go into a fully furnished apartment with a walk-in bedroom, door, and a queen-size bed, and a roommate. And at both places, you do your own grocery shopping, you take care of your own apartment, the cleaning, the laundry, everything is sort of taken care of by the women themselves and supervised by, house management staff, and also supported with case managers and employment and life skills staff. Okay. So those are our 2 facilities. Between the 2 of them, we have housing for 40 women at a time. Okay,
so for 40 women at a time. So the capacity is on average about 20 per home.
One of them is 12 and the other is 28.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. 12 and 28.
Yeah.
What are some of your requirements for the ladies to be able to participate in the program or to reside at the home? Do you have requirements?
Well, it sort of depends on which home you're in. So Shermer House, which is the contracted facility.
Okay.
Your parole officer is the one who places you there, essentially. So we don't manage who comes in or who leaves, but we do manage them once they're there.
Okay.
And one of the neat things is that the parole officer actually has an office there, so you have an on-site person.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is great. Every woman who lives there is assigned to one parole officer.
Oh.
Who's there 2 to 3 days a week.
Okay.
But the eligibility essentially for being in that house is that your parole officer assigns you there, and you have to be under Missouri Department of Corrections supervision of some sort.
Okay, and that's the Sherman House.
And that's
okay.
Right, and that's just a contractual base, but there's no sobriety requirement. We don't restrict based on any sort of charges at all.
Mm-hmm. What about to maintain? What about to stay in the program?
To stay in the program, there's expectations,
right,
that you will work towards your goals, and those goals are individualized. We do have house rules. There's rules about what can be on premises, who can be on premises, when you need to be back. So there's those kinds of rules. And we have sort of a graduated, restriction and sanction policy.
Okay.
So one dirty drop is not going to get you, terminated from our program, because we understand that recovery is a process.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no change whatsoever and there's no buy-in over time, it may just not be the right place for you to be.
Right.
And if you're at Shermer House, that decision about termination is the parole officer's decision. It's not ours.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In the other house, it's our decision. On what on who comes and who leaves and under what conditions.
Mm-hmm.
At the Barbara Baker House, that's a separate program. It's not funded by one single source. So we do have women coming from the federal system, the state system, and jail. We have a whole diversion component at that house. And the only real restriction there is that we cannot house sex offenders in that building because we're close to a school.
Okay.
But other than that, we really don't restrict based on charges.
Okay. Now, again, since we are focused on women, formerly incarcerated women, how do you accommodate the children? If any of these women have children, are they allowed to visit at the home? Do they get to have weekends or spend the nights?
Yeah, so...
Because we're talking about like family reunification type of issues.
Absolutely. So none of our housing can accommodate children to be living in it. That's something that we have sort of in our mind as maybe for the future. But right now it's single women only. When women apply to our program, we will ask, them, do you have arrangements for somebody to take care of your children while you're in our program? And that's sort of a given coming in, that somebody has agreed to continue to take care of their children, and almost all of them have children. So, almost all of them are mothers. Most of them are mothers with minor children, not, some of them, their children are adults.
Mm-hmm.
But those with minor children, we make sure that their children are in a good environment while mom is working on herself.
Right.
So, it's not just a capacity issue. There's also this is mom's time to focus on mom.
Right.
And to think about mom, and it's time that is needed for her to focus in. That being said, we do allow visitation, and it depends on where you're living. At Shermer House, there are registered sex offenders who reside there, so we cannot have any sort of overnight visits. The visits are very controlled, but children are certainly able to visit their moms, and moms are also able to go off-site to visit their kids.
Okay.
At the Barbara Baker House, as long as it's approved, there is one weekend a month when the children can come and stay with mom. So there's some structure around that process, but they can actually have overnight visits one weekend a month. But again, a lot of times they do they schedule time to go see their children. And we also have a case manager who focuses on family reunification. She's really familiar with the foster system and can help, those women kind of navigate that system.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go to hearings with them. We'll talk to their family court case managers and those kinds of things. So we try to address all of those family issues best that we can. And if a family requests a meeting to sort of talk about how reunification is going to go, we can also arrange those kinds of meetings.
Okay, great. So now we've talked about the homes, the transition homes, and programming and the types of family reunification activities that are available. Now let's look at what has been identified as some of the most significant reentry challenges faced by formerly incarcerated women. What do you find has been some of the more salient issues that you've had to really hone in on to really help these women become whole again?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we have to remember that the women, when they went into prison, were already going in with a lot of barriers.
Absolutely.
Almost all of them come from backgrounds of poverty. Almost all of them have had significant traumas in their childhood and adulthood. Most of them went into the system as substance abusers. That's really how women get into the system for the most part. So they have all of those barriers and challenges that they went in with. And then when they come out, it's compounded by the fact that they have been arrested, convicted, and incarcerated, which is sort of a trauma experience in and of itself.
Exactly.
They've been separated from their children, which brings a lot of shame, and
guilt and
further fear, trauma, right? And then they're going to have, a conviction on the record that's going to follow them, probably for the rest of their lives. So, there's addressing the issues that got them into the system, which involves substance abuse treatment, trauma and treatment and counseling, budget, help on trying to get, jobs that are going to be sustaining for the long term, and also learning how to navigate government resources and how to navigate life with a conviction, and also being, answerable to a parole officer for a period of years. So there's a whole myriad of things that are going to create obstacles along the way. And, we can provide a lot of referrals to resources, very practical advice on, how to sign up for food stamps, whether or not you're even going to be eligible based on your convictions. Ultimately, at the end of the day, our goal is to make women love themselves, have self-confidence, become self-directed, and able to just sort of take control of their lives going forward. Lots and lots of prongs and approaches that we take to try to get women on their feet and hopefully never returning to incarceration. That's, at the end of the day, our goal is that it doesn't happen again.
It sounds like you guys are doing some really tremendous work, and a lot of it is also individual based in terms of looking at the specific needs of each woman, along with some of the more collaborative work as well. And I commend the Center for Women in Transition for your efforts here in the city of St. Louis. We have concluded our second segment on the Justice Beat, and we're going to return after our station break. You are listening to the Justice Beat radio show.
The Justice Beat is committed to providing timely and relevant information to the 1 in 3 Americans touched by incarceration. Do you have questions about your loved one's incarceration or need information on how to help your soon-to-be released loved one? Visit our website at www.justicebeat.webs.com and send us an email under the Contact Us tab. The Justice Beat is here for you.
Welcome back to the Justice Beat radio show, where we are speaking with Ms. Laura Toledo, Executive Director of the Center for Women in Transition in St. Louis, Missouri. Ms. Toledo, you ready to go?
Yeah.
We're on segment
Yeah.
3. Now, typically when radio show hosts are interviewing individuals, they tend to start out with what's the mission and the vision. But I've saved that for the third segment because I want that to rest squarely in the minds of our listening audience to understand the mission clearly and the vision. So if you could speak to that for a moment, I'd like for you to be able to clearly leave with our listeners your mission, your vision, and your goals. And then we'll move forward with the rest of the segment.
Okay, so our mission is to support women in the criminal justice system because change is possible. And we made this very short and sweet mission statement because when we hear a woman who has made a fundamental change in the way she is living her life, she always tells us change is possible. And it's such a positive statement, and it's really what we're all about, is
right.
helping women find how they can change their own lives. So that is our overall mission, and that's what guides our daily work. Our vision is to be a national leader and model for restoring women in the criminal justice system to be successful members of their community.
Wonderful vision.
And thank you. And we use the word restoring because our base of values is based on restorative practices and restorative justice.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we were an early adopter of reentry. We're 20 years old this year. And
congratulations.
Thank you. We're very excited about that. And, 20 years ago, there were very few agencies that were focused on reentry for women.
That's right.
So, we are sort of a national leader in that sense, and we're working on developing our model to make it, ever better. And that's sort of our vision, is to be able to say, hey, we have a model that the entire country should want to adopt. And at the end of the day, it's all about the women and seeing them become successful and to strengthen their communities by strengthening them.
Right. And oftentimes when I'm either participating in workshops or doing trainings or even writing about the women, I always have this image and vision in my head about we all emanate from women.
Yes.
And they are the incubators of life. And if the women are not made whole, what can we expect from the children that are coming from these women? These women must be made whole. And it's a precious opportunity to be an incubator of life. And so with everything, with all life emanating from women, we have to take care of these women, all women.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't say it better myself.
So
yeah, I mean, and I do think there's so much focus on children, and it's really important. It's really important to focus on children, but yeah, the children are living with their mothers,
right?
And the best way you can help a child is to help that mother be a better mother,
right?
And to support that woman in being a mother, because if mom's not doing well, if mom's in prison, you can throw all the resources you want at the child, but they're still without a mom.
Right. And if your goal is for family reunification, which is what typically is what we're striving for, then you need to make sure everyone has been made whole. Okay, so we talked a little bit about some of the, or somewhat on the surface, the issues, the continuum of care issues, but I want to kind of give you an opportunity to talk about some specific reentry programming that goes on at the center, even if you want to just maybe highlight a signature program of yours.
You can be a woman can be a part of our program and not be in housing, but most of the women who are in our programs are in our housing. And there's a lot of really powerful stuff that happens there. Just living together in community and the support that the women give each other is something that is really powerful. And, they support each other, they motivate each other. You don't want to be the slacker in the group, So
right.
That's something that that, we feel that the living environment is really conducive to change. I know sometimes people feel that, well, you have all these people who are addicts living together. How is this going to work? Most of the time they actually support each other in sobriety. We also offer mentoring as a component of our program, and this is women volunteers from the community who agree to work one-on-one. So we have one-on-one mentoring in our program, and the relationships that are formed there oftentimes last for years and years, if not lifetime. Mm-hmm. And, the women that come to us most of the time have low levels of family and friend support. Okay. So that mentoring component is a really critical part of them having a strong role model, ear for just, the daily frustrations of life. Mm-hmm. We also, like I said, we're based on restorative justice. It's sort of a fundamental philosophy, and we do have restorative justice talking circles once a week.
Oh, wonderful.
We also have, and this is a way for the house to kind of come together mm-hmm. and deal with house issues, and also deal with sort of higher level issues of relationships and healing relationships with self, with family, with community. We also have pretty extensive life skills training. It's a curriculum. There's classes every week that they are required to attend. It can be anything from nutrition and grocery shopping. We have a wonderful woman who comes and does a grocery store tour and shows people how to shop healthy and on a budget.
Excellent. Wow.
And then builds that into a 6-week nutrition program. We have a 8-week program on how to problem solve. It's called Solving Our Situations, mm-hmm. which some women that is the most transformative thing that they experience. We try to throw a lot at people to see what sticks.
Right.
We do budgeting and finance. Everybody is forced to save and build a budget. Even if you don't have any money, you still must budget.
Okay.
And figure out how you're going to get from day to day.
Right.
So we have a wide variety. We bring in someone to talk about access to health care. We bring in somebody to talk about STDs. We get somebody to talk about, parenting. So we try to provide as much information as we can for the women when they're with us. We have case managers who connect them to resources. A lot of women need dental care. I mean, that's something that is so, even if you have insurance, it's hard to get good dental care in this country. A lot of these women have never had dental care, and that's a top priority to get some of that work done. Mm-hmm. And we can get that done, get them connected to counseling. One thing that we're really excited about, over the last 2 years, we've had a pro bono counseling service who's doing on-site, once a week, counseling sessions for any woman who wants it.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, yeah, it's really awesome. So, we're hoping to keep growing that.
Right.
That's something that we have on our radar, to just make a full-time position, hopefully, to provide those services for our women, because there's a lot of stigma about going to counseling.
Yes.
But the word has spread about how awesome it is.
Right.
So we're getting a lot more buy-in from the women, and they want to sign up. So it's sort of a new thing we've been able to provide in-house that has been very successful.
And that's great, because they have a lot of opportunities to address the more tangible things on their road to reentry and being successful. But what I think will complete the tangible achievements is that counseling piece, because that's going to address the inner person.
And we do some fun stuff. We have gardens at both houses. We don't require people to garden, but if they like to garden,
right,
they can garden away.
Right, that's good.
And it depends on the year. Sometimes we have the most amazing gardens, and clients are coming in with pails of tomatoes for us to eat every other day.
Right.
And some years not so much. We have arts and crafts classes. We try to keep it a little bit light.
Right.
As well.
Now, what about, I'm trying to imagine cooking. Do they share responsibilities for cooking, or do you have some women who you may have to provide cooking classes to? Yeah, because that's also a communal way of bringing about unity in a home as well.
Yeah, so, women are ultimately responsible for their own groceries and own cooking.
Okay.
So, and that's a life skill that, if you're in a traditional halfway house with a cafeteria line, you're not really working on.
Right.
So that's one thing that we're excited that we're able to provide in the format that we have.
Okay.
Like I said, the nutrition class that we have has some basic cooking included.
Right.
And the life skills employee, if there's somebody who really has no clue, she can go in and help with that.
Okay.
And some, it kind of depends on the makeup of the clients and which house you're in.
Mm-hmm.
At Baker House, we have a couple people who are just live to cook.
Okay.
So every time you go over there, there's like a pie.
Right.
Or, cookies and the women will barbecue together.
Right.
On the weekend. So
okay.
there's those kinds of things. But, some women don't love to cook and some women do. Just
absolutely.
Like everyone, right?
Right.
Everybody's kind of like that. One thing that I think is pretty neat, we've had a couple volunteer groups who said, we just want to come and share a meal with your women.
Oh, good.
And I wish more groups would do that.
Would do that.
It's something that the women so appreciate, just coming together, sitting down, having dinner, and playing games.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a couple of groups do that this year.
Oh, that's good. Because it makes them also, that's community.
It is. It's just community. It's not treatment. It's not work.
Right.
It's just hanging out.
Hanging out, exactly.
Feeling human.
Exactly. So, okay, so now let's close out this segment with this final question, and I'd like to share with our listening audience what would be some of the most immediate needs of the center that you have at this point.
I mean, as executive director, the top of my list is always just funding.
Okay, right.
Funding sources shift all the time. Government funding goes up and down. And we rely heavily on contributions and support from our community members.
Mm-hmm.
We're also always looking for mentors.
Okay.
To work with our women. We have a pretty strong group of mentors, but people's lives always shift, and we're always looking for new recruits for that.
Mm-hmm.
For people who are passionate about this mission and who think, geez, I would love to get involved, I don't know how, all they need to do is reach out to us.
Okay. And we're going to handle that part of it in the next segment, because I'm going to give you the full floor to tell people how to reach you and everything else so that people can really get plugged in with the center.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break for our last segment, in which Ms. Toledo will return and join us to recap, talk a little bit about the Center for Women in Transition and how you can reach them. You are listening to the Justice Beat radio show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you know of ground-level community or faith-based organizations who are providing outstanding direct services to formerly incarcerated individuals? Well, if you do, the Justice Beat team would like to recognize their commitment and dedication. Please visit the Justice Beat Radio Show website at www.justicebeat.webs.com and submit your recommendation. Don't forget to provide the name of the organization, the contact person, phone number, and email address. You are listening to the Justice Beat Radio Show. See you in 60 seconds.
Welcome back to the Justice Beat radio show, and we are in our final segment of the Justice Beat show, and we are talking with Ms. Laura Toledo, Executive Director of the Center for Women in Transition. Ms. Toledo, we're going to use this segment really to give you an opportunity to recap and summarize the efforts of the Center for Women in Transition, also to tell our listening audience how to reach you, website, social media. And then I will also leave you with the last words on what you would like to leave our audience thinking about in relation to how they can get more involved with the center.
So I guess to recap, the Center for Women in Transition works with women in the criminal justice system and in any way that is defined, basically, jail, prison, federal, state systems, to help them make changes in their lives so that hopefully they will not ever end up back in the system. We provide every possible sort of service that we can. In large part, it's based around housing. However, that's not a requirement to be in our program.
ways in which the listening audience can get in contact with the center and whether or not
Sure.
you are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc.
So we can be reached. Anybody who is interested in finding out more can reach us at www.cwitstl.org.
And
Our phone number
CWIT is www.cwitstl.org.
We are also on Facebook, and we are on Twitter. However, we're not super active, but I think we're at CWITSTL, I think is our handle. And our phone number is 314-771-5207.
That's 314-771-5207.
On one Friday every other month, we provide lunch for anybody who'd like to find out more.
Okay.
It's at our main office. You can just come. We keep the presentation to 1 hour. I will be there. We have a client who agrees to come and talk a little bit about her personal experience with us. And we try to have a board member if somebody's able to make it. And we just provide basic information about the center, what it does, what its impact is, and offer an opportunity for people to just think about how they'd like to get involved.
Okay, and can you repeat that address again, please? And you said it's once a month on Fridays?
It's once a month every other Friday.
Okay.
And if you contact us, we can tell you the date and get you invited to that. I think we had one in March, so it'll be in May.
Okay.
Our next one. But we can certainly tell you the exact date if you give us an email or phone call.
Okay, great.
But it's a good way to just find out about us. We offer a tour for people who have the time.
Okay.
We can show you our two houses, and I think that's always a nice thing to do because when you see it, it's almost never what people think it is. So it's very worthwhile to just come on down and see us in person.
Okay.
If you have the ability to do so.
Now, before you move on to your last words, at the top of the show, you mentioned a gala that you're in the process of coordinating and the logistics for and planning. Can you take maybe 30 seconds to give us some highlights about the gala?
Yeah, sure. So this is our 20th anniversary celebration. So it's a big one for us. We have a dinner, silent auction, oral auction, and we're going to be honoring legacy supporters. The people that have been with us since day one, got us founded, got us going.
Great.
Staffed us, were our original board. So it should be a really neat event, and we're kind of looking past, present, future for the agency. So it should be a lot of fun.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it. All right. And so your last words for our listening audience.
Well, I just want to thank you for your interest in what we do. People don't think about women in prison much. If they think about the criminal justice system, they're usually thinking about men. But as you mentioned before, women are the fastest growing portion of the prison population, and they are our mothers. They are the core of our communities. So being able to help them helps children, family, and community. So I just want to thank you so much for reaching out to us, for having interest in what we do, and for sharing our passion.
You're welcome, and I want to thank you for taking the time to share and spend your day with us, part of your day with us and the listening audience, and we will continue to highlight and support the work of the Center for Women in Transition. This concludes our broadcast episode of the Justice Beat radio show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Justice Beat. If you like what you heard and found the information useful, then support the Justice Beat radio show by spreading the word and telling a friend. The Justice Beat is dedicated to the 1 in 3 Americans touched by incarceration. Justice Beat is where we discuss all things justice.
Welcome. We are excited to welcome our internet radio audience today to the Justice Beat radio.